Good morning, everybody, and welcome to week 12. And we are at the end of our second really short unit. As I mentioned last week, it's just 2 short weeks for unit 4, and then we will launch into unit 5, which is our last longer piece of writing for the semester. So, in terms of what you can look forward to this week, the first thing about the unit 3 writing, you should be getting that back probably today or Tuesday. As soon as I release all of the writings and the feedback, then this will become available to you, this Unit 3 writing check-in. I think some of you accidentally, or it became available last week accidentally along with the page about revising. That was my fault. I had my weeks turned around. Anyway, so don't worry if you saw that and freaked out and didn't have feedback, or looked at the quiz but didn't have the feedback yet. That was my fault. I had the wrong release date. So at any rate, that will become available to you this week as soon as the essays are finished. One thing I will say, and I will reiterate this in an announcement and email once I release the writings, is that if you have a please review for your main story at a glance, that means you must revise. There are a whole lot of folks who are receiving the little eyeballs, right, for your please review as your feedback, because the requirements are not met. As I mentioned, there were a couple of really strict requirements you had to meet for this assignment. You needed 4 sources for that second section, the what others said section, but you also needed each of those 3 sections to be a minimum of 300 words. So if those were not met, then it's an automatic, you must revise. And so I'll talk more about that once I release them, but just as an FYI, if you see a please review for your main story, just expect that means you need to revise it. Okay, but back into unit 4, back into our very, very brief study of logical fallacies and a little bit of kind of rhetorical analysis of visual texts. This week, we're going to be focusing on campaign ads and rhetoric. Now, normally when I teach this course in an election year, whether it's like last year, we were looking at the midterm elections, obviously presidential elections, we were looking at all the presidential campaign ads, but we're in an in-between year right now. And so we're going to be looking at the campaign ads of 4 state Senate races from last fall. Arizona, Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina. Those were some of the battleground states. And I don't want you to feel like this is suddenly getting very political, because this is not about politics. It's about rhetoric, and it's about the language that was used in the campaign ads and the appeals and the moves of how they were trying to persuade voters, and really kind of thinking about issues like audience and purpose, and even their own ethos as a speaker, and kind of how they were trying to reach their audience. So the campaign ads kind of bring together a lot of what we've been studying in a very short, very palpable and concrete way. So what you're going to do this week, I want you to read this article about how to analyze visual texts. It just kind of helps explain how language can be translated to the visual medium, and I think it's just a good overview. And then your assignment for this week is called Campaign Ads and Rhetoric. You're going to be watching one campaign ad from one of those states. Now, you're welcome to watch multiple ads. In fact, if you choose one particular state, you might want to watch both ads, both Republican and Democrat, to kind of weigh them against each other. They're pretty interesting. I've compiled the primary ads here. There were lots of ads, but these were the ones that were the most readily watched and readily available. So the assignment, I've compiled the ads for you here, and then that assignment, of course, is due Friday, and you have that grace period until Sunday. Because this is the end, you do have a reflection, but this reflection is a little bit different. It's not going to ask you only about Unit 4, because, again, it was a really short unit. This reflection is going to require that you also look at your Unit 1 and Unit 2 reflections in order to be able to answer some of these questions. Now, some of you may have accidentally copied over your reflections. I've had that happen before, and that's the reason why I save your reflections with my comments as a PDF. So the easiest thing for you to do is to, if you're not really sure even where those reflections are, if you kind of have a Google Drive that looks like a pile of spaghetti, then what you could do is go into grades here in Canvas and look for the reflections for Unit 1 and Unit 2, and you'll see the files there, the PDF files there. And so then that's probably the easiest way for you to access it unless you know where it is. As I mentioned, the revising the main story at a glance, this will become available to you once I open up the feedback. And then your writing territory for this week is about parentheses, using parentheses, not as in using parentheses for citation purposes, but to use them as a way of kind of highlighting certain meanings, clarifying ideas, giving the reader little asides. There are various purposes that you can use for parentheses, and we don't usually think about them other than citations, right? And so this is going to kind of help you think about kind of the breadth that you can use with parentheses. And then that's it. Week 12, then we're done with this unit. Next week, we will be starting our final unit of the semester. I know, it's like, woohoo! And our last major piece of writing. So this is a short week, short and sweet unit. Again, the biggest thing probably is that you're going to be getting your main stories back this week. So as always, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. And I hope you have a great week and enjoy the campaign ads. They're pretty good.